Hi, this is Burr Stewart with episode 63 of Reality Model Railroading, where we try to take model railroading seriously, but sometimes we fail. Today we were off to a good start because I had recently installed tsunami decoders in 3 of my favorite older locomotives. This is 2 GP7s from Atlas Cato originally. Sorry about that screwdriver. That I've had for years and years, and I finally put good decoders in them, as well as a Walthers Proto 2000 F unit. We're charging past Mukilteo station here on our way to Interbay to pick up a train. But before I could even start to run those locomotives in, Jim Weisenbach shows up with some dead rail locomotives that he had put together. And then, of course, our usual Robin Peel brings over his latest locomotive from the British Isles in 00 scale, which just fits beautifully in an HO layout because those British locomotives are smaller. And he put his dynamometer car, boy, that was a workout, in front to test this engine out for the first time. It actually ran beautifully right out of the box. And of course that meant he had to bring over a bunch of passenger cars to run with it. So we'll let you see the entire train here. Pay no attention to all those cars on the upper level. That's the Skycomish staging yard and the limestone junction of the Milwaukee Road. That's for some other video. Here's another view of it from the other end of the layout, running a little slower the second time around. This part of the layout represents Ballard and the area between Golden Gardens Park and Carkeek Park. Dave was doing a little testing of one of his passenger cars on the Ballard branch there, which has some of the tightest radius curves. A few minutes later, Dave got an Amtrak Cascades train together and ran it around with some new Rapido passenger cars. As you know, if you've been watching this channel at all, I'm trying to model the Burlington Northern in 1973. But I have a little trouble when my friends come over and bring modern equipment. What can I do but enjoy it? Especially now that they've learned how to blow horns at grade crossings. This is Vine Street in downtown Seattle. So here's an illustration of how not to do something. I installed some infrared sensors for the crossing bells, but forgot to glue them in the hole, so the underbody detail, pop, caused it to fall down. A few minutes later, this same train passes through Everett's Bayside yard on its way back to Seattle.
Any combination of lights in these cars, there's a very faint hissing sound, or hissing or buzzing sound, which we don't like very much.
Stay tuned. In a few minutes he put on a third car and turned on the marker lights. And of course, no video is complete on this channel without the squid and the squid bridge. There you have it. Very nice. Meanwhile, up at Skycomish, Jim had brought his dead rail locomotive up to the top. I say locomotive because this is actually a working locomotive with a second dummy locomotive full of electronics in order to receive the radio control signal and to generate power from a battery to run the main unit. But the real point of dead rail is that you can control the train without any wiring whatsoever in the track, because the wheels of both of these units are completely insulated from receiving power from the DCC system. And then, just for a touch of the bizarre, back in the Everett's Delta yard, we were trying out a Forney in On30 scale, which also happens to run on HO scale track. And we thought we'd do a little switching. It seems to run very smoothly. This particular Bachmann model does not have a sound decoder in it, but it does have a DCC decoder, so that'll be a project for some year. Don't hold your breath though, we got plenty to do around here. For example, weren't we just putting tsunami decoders in diesel engines? Yes, we were. And these are the 3 engines we just recently re-decoded. And at this point, engineer Lisa Murray has got them on the point of a manifest train entering the Interbay yard in Seattle. Now, what you don't know, but we'll soon find out, is that the very last car in this train is a scale test car, which needs to be dropped off at the scale house in Interbay. So we'll be getting to that operation in a few minutes.
This one's always in use. Yeah, I know
But first we have to enjoy the sounds of this new locomotive that Robin brought. How about that? But wait, before we move anywhere else, look at this gorgeous U-boat, a revvs product that Brian recently put some weathering in the cracks between the doors. See that black weathering? Very nice. We get so absorbed with these crazy train moves, it's nice to stop and smell the roses once in a while. This model, among other great features, has rotating roller bearing caps, which we'll demonstrate in some other video.
Yep, that makes sense.
Meanwhile, down in South Seattle, near the football and baseball stadiums, our passenger train was about to arrive. I better get the camera out of the way, huh? This time it had 3 passenger cars. And with any luck, you'll be able to see the red marker lights in the back lit up. These are the new cars from Rapido that just came out in the last few weeks. They're of interest out here because Amtrak Cascades is replacing the Talgo cars with these. But of course that has nothing to do with 1973, so I don't know why we're watching this on this channel, but here we are. These cars are very well done. Look at all that underbody detail. Now our train is crossing over the Snohomish River. There's a little bit of a grade crossing there, followed by a totally unprototypical tunnel. We really don't mind this tunnel though. It gives us lots of great photo opportunities. For example, watch these red lights disappear into the darkness. Nice.
That's awesome. Let's go.
Well, this is the second dead rail locomotive set that Jim brought over to try out. I'm not sure how it's different from the first, but he slowed it down so you could see how smoothly it runs along this section here. Remember, it's completely radio controlled and battery powered. It's not even talking to my DCC system. So in case you're wondering if this is complicated to set up a dead rail locomotive set, here's a picture of the controller that Jim built. Now I'll let you be the judge of whether you want to get involved in something like this. I have some of the basic components myself in a box, but I haven't dared to try working with it yet. We'll see what happens. Now, meanwhile, the inside of a modern DCC locomotive is pretty scary to look at too. So I guess we just need to pick our poison. Remember those blue diesels at the beginning of the video? Well, by this time, Lisa had hitched them up to a train and was pulling that train into Interbay Yard. These Jeeps are Atlas products that I just recently installed tsunami decoders in, and they seem to be running really well. A few minutes later, it came to a screeching stop, and I was very pleased to notice that it had a scale test car on the rear end of it. You can see that little yellow scale test car next to the caboose, where it's always supposed to be run. So Aidan brought in a switch engine, bang, and uncoupled the scale test car, and then spotted it over on the track weighing scale in Interbay. He's using a dental brush there to uncouple. I'm not sure how much I like using those, but it's one of the options we provide. As you know, off to the right there's a grade crossing, so he's blowing for that. And look, here comes the dead rail diesels that Jim has been running today. One of those has plastic wheels, and the other one has the motor completely isolated from the metal wheels. I don't normally allow plastic wheel cars to run on the railroad because they create junk on the railhead, but I figured this one time wouldn't hurt with just one engine. Meanwhile, Aidan has brought the scale test car up the ladder here, approaching the scale house and the track scale that needs to be calibrated. That scale test car is a recent Walthers product, which was written up in the recent Railroad Model Craftsman, in probably the September issue. It just came out. But I'm not sure why he's using the caboose to shove that scale test car. Maybe there's a reason. That modern Amtrak locomotive is totally out of place in 1973, but like I said, Dave is testing some equipment, so we'll watch that later. Oops. There we go. Easy does it. Uncouple, pull away, and we'll let the boys in the shack there figure out what to do with the scale test car. Uh-oh, I hear a modern electronic bell sound. Well, back in the passenger service department, Dave has got two locomotives set up in a push-pull arrangement, kind of like you see on the international passenger service between Seattle and Vancouver, British Columbia. We'll just watch this test run move around downtown Seattle and into Stacy Street. It looks like the front locomotive is separated from the train and we're strictly in a pusher mode here. It has to do with the inexpensive plastic couplers that the manufacturers tend to put on their equipment in order to save money. just causes us a headache to have to put on the metal Katy couplers, but we do it. In this case, Dave also found there was a coupler height mismatch between the front locomotive and the first car. So he rotated the direction of the car and it fixed it. Back in Interbay, Aidan was putting away the switch engine, having successfully spotted the scale test car, and I was enjoying looking at it so much I thought you would too. There's a nice great northern great sky blue painted boxcar to go with those locomotives we saw earlier. There they are. That blue paint scheme only lasted 3 years because they started it in 1967, and of course the merger took place in 1970. So if you're modeling 1973, you need a few of these blue cars and locomotives to make it authentic, but not too many, because in 3 years they couldn't paint that much. There's one of a few cabooses that we also have on the roster. As I was taking this shot, it annoyed me that the little blue flag guy wasn't lit, so we moved it over. There, that's better. This track we're coming in on is really the lead for the car repair shed. But since it's at the front of the layout, we tend to park the switch engines there just to make it convenient to grab them. Isn't that rotating beacon nice? This is one of the new Rapido SW1200 locomotives. Well, now for something truly bizarre. Jim had also brought over 2 soft drink box cars showing the competition between Coca-Cola and Pepsi. I don't know why, but he did. And then he proceeded to run them around the railroad using his dead rail locomotives lettered for the SP and S. Very nice.
What may or may not be a brilliant idea. Well,
I let him use one of my SP and S red cabooses to complete the scene. Although I sort of object to the uncompensated product placement that this represents. Sugary soft drinks are the source of a lot of problems, and I don't endorse them in any way. Oh well, it's reality model railroading, what can I say? Then I got distracted by another great northern great sky blue locomotive. Isn't that pretty? Since we were spotting the scale test car, let me just show you the Walthers scale house kit in service here. And I built it so that it can be knocked into by people's elbows. So the roof comes off, and you can see the scale house mechanism in the inside there. And it's right next to the edge of the layout, which is kind of scary. So if somebody hits it accidentally, the building just comes right off. And the mechanism is loose as well. Well, I think it might make sense to put that down with rubber cement or something. But this way nothing gets broken if somebody hits it. I just wanted to show you that for things that are right on the front edge of the layout, this can sometimes be a good idea to make them frangible. So with that, we come to the end of another in this series of model railroad operations videos. This is a view of the Interbay yard, just to see what's there. And I wanted you to see that the brand new Intermountain re-release of the ENC wood ship gondolas are in service and looking great. At the end of a northbound train destined for Everett and the Scott Paper Company, right near the auto loading facility at Terminal 9091. So with that, this is Burr Stewart Wishing you much fun with trains.